the defunct Groton Natural History Club, adopting guidelines similar to those of the American Ornithologists' Union. Today, a very important event in the history of the school took place. At least I hope so, Roosevelt wrote home in May. 4 or 5 of us boys have, with the approval of the rector, formed a natural history society. You know, a large room has been set apart in the new school building for a museum, and there are at present no collections to put in it, so we are to do systematic work. Roosevelt took a shine to Edward S. Morse, a visiting professor at Groton who taught him about ants, butterflies, and other insects. Morse was one of the founders and the curator of the esteemed Peabody Academy of Science in Groton, as well as editor of American Naturalist. With the rector's permission, Morse led students on a trip to a Middlesex County forest to learn how to collect field specimens using brooms, vials, cheesecloth, nets, and glass jars. This romp led Franklin to engage even more with the Natural History Society. It will be most interesting as well as instructive, and we are all enthusiastic, Roosevelt wrote to his parents. Our idea is not to let everyone into the society, but only those who care for natural history and who will take an interest and really work. Morse took Roosevelt and his birder friends at Groton on another outing, this time to collect insects, leaves, and soil samples. Franklin learned about the Native American tribes, the Nashua and Wachusett, that had lived along the Nashua River, hunting, fishing, and growing crops on small plots along the river. They were the original custodians of wild New England. Professor Morse started by turning over old logs and stones, etc., Roosevelt wrote to his parents. He also gave us a good idea about what to collect, how to preserve and label it, and other things about the new museum. While at Groton, FDR heard about a lecture that Dr. Chapman had given at the Linnaean Society of New York, in which he argued that the newest generation of bird enthusiasts, which included Franklin Roosevelt and Monsell Crosby, should retire their guns and taxidermy kits in favor of the camera. The Chapman Doctrine made a deep impression on FDR, and he mostly stopped shooting birds in order to study them. However, he did occasionally continue to hunt ducks and geese from blinds. Because Franklin so enjoyed Groton's Natural History Society, he agreed to manage the school's summer camp on Squam Lake in New Hampshire. Serving as part of the faculty, Roosevelt was to teach poor boys from urban areas aged 10 to 14 about forestry, birdwatching, camping, swimming, and canoeing. According to a pamphlet published by the Groton School, the camp's purpose was to teach the poor city lads the differences of environment in New England. Franklin quickly formed a kinship with many of the first-time campers, taking them out to explore the lake's 30 named islands and numerous unnamed islets, and watch the common loons, Gavia immer, dive underwater for fish. This first visit to Squam Lake also inaugurated his lifelong interest in protecting the rugged White Mountains of New Hampshire and Maine. The most famous peak, 6,288-foot Mount Washington, part of a line of summits known as the Presidential Range, seemed to Roosevelt to be the Mount Rainier of New England. During his time at Squam Lake, Roosevelt pondered why the forest-lush East Coast didn't have large national parks like Yellowstone and Yosemite, where American young people could camp in the pristine wilderness. While Franklin was at Groton, public health became inextricably linked to environmental degradation. Giant oil storage tanks, chemical plants, factory smokestacks, and power lines were at war with the natural world. Steel magnate Andrew Carnegie shocked a meeting of the Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce by pleading for someone to get rid of the smoke nuisance that was causing citizens to flee from western Pennsylvania in search of fresh air. Carnegie, an industrialist conservationist, was asking the federal government to establish anti-pollution laws. During Franklin's junior year, Congress passed the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1899, which aimed to preserve navigable waters by outlawing dumping or dredging without permission from the Army Corps of Engineers. Around the same time, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled in Missouri v. Illinois and the Sanitary District of Chicago that Chicago had to maintain a proper drainage canal for sewage. It is a question of the first magnitude whether the destiny of the great rivers is to be the sewers of the cities along their banks or to be protected against everything which threatens their purity.